What's up, everyone? Heath with Lake Champlain Sanitation here. Unfortunately, in this video, we're bringing you some bad news that I am in a sling. I had some shoulder surgery a couple days ago, but the show must go on. We had a little backcountry snowmobiling incident. I'll throw a video in right here of the wreck that did the shoulder in. But anyways, we're here. We're excited to bring you this video. If it's your first time watching, we bring you dumpster rental, junk removal, general service business content. This video is going to be all about our new shop and the cost breakdown of that. It's about a 2,000 square foot shop. We purchased it with 2 acres of land. And houses all of our equipment. We're able to do service here. Guys are able to show up, and we have an actual office now, which is great. Ran this thing out of shipping containers and rental facilities for about 6-7 years. And blessed to have this now. So without further ado, we're going to jump into these numbers. Got some videos of each steps of the process here. Just remember, this was 2025 building numbers, and I purchased the land in 2024. The first set of costs that I'm going to go through are going to be the 2024 purchase expenses. This is going to include 2 acres of land, our site work that we had to get done. That was laying down some crushed stone, building a parking lot driveway area for our trucks to come in, our blueprints, power, bringing power to a vacant lot, and all of that. So first and foremost, $50,000 for the land, $22,500 for the site work. The site work, I was able to do a little bit of bartering and trading with the company that does the trucking. So we did save some money on that. Our parking lot here for the square footage of it would probably be an additional $5,000 to $10,000 in today's market. But those 2 costs alone made up $72,500 of just getting the lot accessible, because when we purchased it, it was just a field. The power site work, that was for basically digging for our power lines and setting up what we would call a pedestal. And that is what we ran a couple extension cords off of if we needed any sort of power for basically the first winter. We were really lucky that our town allowed us to do that. And then down the list here a little more, we see NYSEG, a charge of $405. We are in New York State, so New York State Electric and Gas is who sets up our power poles. And that was $405. That was to set a new power pole out by the road to bring the power to that pedestal. I'm going to skip over appraisal for just a minute, but the plans, permits, lawyer, closing taxes, and the trees section of our breakdown here, all that added up to a couple $1,000. And when I say trees, our town wanted us to put in some small shrubs just to eventually give us a little green space road coverage down the road. It's going to take a while for them to grow in, but it was something that they required in order for us to get our permits to be here. Jumping back up to that appraisal section, the $2,000 I paid for that appraisal was for the bank. And we ended up not using a bank at all, but our plans in 2024, when we purchased the lot and did the initial $80,000 worth of work, includes the appraisal, because we did pay for it, because using a bank was in my mind. I was going to use this first $75,000, $80,000 of expenses, if you will, as collateral and equity to put down on the loan for the shop. But now we don't have a mortgage on it. We'll get into why we don't a little bit later in this video. So we ran off of this vacant lot for 1 winter and broke ground for the shop I'm sitting in April of 2025. And the first thing I had to do was put my framing. It says deposit for framing. Deposit for the framing was $25,000, and then the rest of the framing was $30,000. We had an Amish crew do the framing on this building. It's all 2x6 construction. What that framing number includes is all of my windows, my exterior man doors, the roof, the tin, and the snow guards. We get snow up here, so they put these little guards on the roof to break the ice up. That's nothing interior, that's no insulation. The next site work line item that we see here for the $29,146, that's going to be everything to prep around the building. And I had the septic included in that, because I had the same person put in the septic and the well who also did the finished site work to prep for this building. That was extra from the parking lot. Now the heat and plumbing, that's going to be in-floor heat, our boiler, some plumbing from the rough plumbing in from the water lines, and our propane hookup from a third-party company who sells propane. That line item totaling $22,414. That I think was a very fair number. I don't know. I'd like to know in the comments below, what are these services, all of these line items running in your area of the country? We are in a small rural area up here, and I was able to call in a lot of favors for a lot of these costs, and I do understand that in some parts of the country these numbers are probably much higher depending on what your demand is and where you're located. So insulation and furring, that's going to be for the inside of the building and furring out our shop. The entire 32 by 50 section where we furred all that out and then put all of our tin on that, and we went with just regular R21 insulation in the walls, and then I believe it was an R38 in the ceiling to get our proper values right for code. The concrete section was going to include the pad that I'm sitting on up front and the 32 by 50 pad. So up front where I'm sitting, this includes a bathroom, an office, and a mechanical room. That was 16 by 24. And then a 32 by 50 pad in the back for the garage. Both pads combined, they both have a 2-foot, like a knee wall that we built off of to get that 16-foot easy interior height. We went 2-foot concrete, 14-foot material. Then with your plates, we had a full true, just over 16-foot finished interior height in the shop. And we did that because of the garage door, but that entire concrete process was $28,100. So the gutters, lift rental and small lift rental, those all those items, that was all done in like the same week. So that's going to include our gutters and then the lift to put the tin on the areas that we couldn't reach just from the ground because they are tall ceilings. We had to have someone come in here with a lift and put that up. So that includes all of those fees there. And then the $4,030 in tin, that's going to be the materials only for the shop section. Our 14 by 14 garage door is $6,966. Again, I thought it was a very fair price. We did order it in black with a row of windows and a Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, nice garage door opener. Comes with a couple regular garage door openers, and then you can set an app up through your phone. I thought for under $7,000 to have that fully installed by a professional was a fair price, and I was really happy with that $6,966 number. So in our small bathroom, we have a shower, toilet, and sink. I did break that apart from sheetrock. Those items were $1,323, and that was a slop sink, a regular grade toilet, and then a stand-up 36-inch shower. A pretty large line item on here, and I bulked it all into one. There were a few different phases of labor depending on what we were doing week by week, but this $19,025 number is going to be just inside the shop portion of the building. And that labor would include anything from putting up electrical, hanging tin, doing finish work, anything like that. I did purchase my interior doors, electrical materials, and like the office finishes all separate, and that is also included with that labor. So the labor that was $19,000, that included the install of the materials for the electrical, the install of the office finishes, and some of the interior doors, and then the floor coatings. So the iron buster is because we have hard water here, and that was $2,412 installed. And then topsoil, that was just for a little bit of finish work around our propane tanks. And we did where the gutters were coming down on one side of the building just to make the grass grow nicer on that side where they had to disturb for the septic. We put down some topsoil, spread it with my own tractor, and brought some grass seed. We had $500 in material for that, bringing our grand total from April of 2025 to August of 2025 up to $194,277. So between July of 2024 and then the end of August in 2025, my grand total for the entire building with the land, permits, right down to the finished computers and desks that I'm sitting at, we had $274,942 in total costs. And be it that I did not use that appraisal because we did not finance any of the building, I still had that appraisal of $300,000. So we actually instantly gained about $25,000 in equity from building the building. And that appraisal was also made not using in-floor heat, not using some of the finishes we ended up using, because I was doing it on a budget and really trying to make sure I was way under budget. And by the looks of this, we did a couple things higher end. I think this building would probably sell in the mid threes now. So we did gain quite a bit of equity doing a lot of work ourselves. And then instead of going with the bank and having the closing costs, having the interest, I was able to do it out of pocket, use some higher finishes, and now I feel really comfortable sitting in an asset that would have, be valued in the mid 300,000s mark. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We appreciate you watching. As always, if you like, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.